2008 to 2010 Ford F250 DPF filter replacement. What's up, everybody? I got this Ford F250 truck. It's a very cool truck, but it's not legal in California, so I got to put a DPF filter in it. Now, here's the cat, and then the DPF is right here. They're connected together by some nuts and bolts, but this is the one I'm replacing right here. As you can see, it kind of goes pretty far into the exhaust. Now, this is kind of like drop and replace. I'm going to be using a Ford OEM one. Here's the part number. This Ford one is pretty much just like a identical, and I'm gonna link it below online. There's the part number, and it's like $2,500 around there. Very pricey, and there are aftermarket ones available on Amazon as well. And we'll go into that more later towards the end of the video, but they do sell aftermarket ones on Amazon for significantly cheaper. So first thing we want to do is soak down every bolt, every clamp, every nut with some penetrant oil. Now, I use BG Inforce spray. This stuff's like industrial level. It's great. I sprayed down everything, and then the first thing I did was remove the exhaust temperature sensor that's on the DPF right here. It's plugged in right there. You just push the little button and you can pull the connector out. I was going to remove it, but that thing was seized, so I couldn't. And then, of course, I soaked down these nuts right here, and then there's some on top. But I'm going to go ahead and start with these, getting these off. They're either a 15 millimeter or a 17 millimeter. And just get your wrench or your ratchet, whatever you got, and just get every single one of them off. Now, you could save them. Some parts, like the new gasket, comes with new ones, I believe. But if you don't have that, you could just save these and reuse them. Now, once you get them off, you'll notice there's one on top right here, and this is holding on a bracket and the DPF sensor as well. You're going to have to take that nut off, and then once you get that nut off, we're going to remove the sensor, and then there's a nut underneath that. I'll show you what I mean. So I had to use an extension on this one on the tip top. It's kind of annoying to get to, but I got to it. I removed that first nut, and then when that was off, I was able to remove this bracket, which has the DPF sensor attached. The DPF sensor is just like a little vacuum hose that goes on this little port. You can just lift this bracket and sensor up together. I didn't unplug the sensor, nothing. I just kind of removed this all together, and then just like that. And then I just set it to the side gently, and then there's another nut right there you have to remove right there. I had to use a deep socket to get it off. But once I got that off, or once you get that off, you'll notice that this will kind of like be able to move a tad bit like that, but we got to get the back end removed as well. So let's go ahead and move to the back. Now this clamp, I soaked it down with penetrant oil like I mentioned before, and then you got your exhaust hangers that we got to remove. So first thing, I'm going to get my 15 millimeter and remove this clamp. This is an OEM clamp, so it's just got a little 15 millimeter on there, and I loosened it, not to where it came apart, but to where it was so loose I could just slide it backwards. And then if yours is rusted or it's broke, Ford doesn't make that clamp anymore, so you'll have to get a new one. But you get aftermarket one. But after you get that off, I got these exhaust hangers off. Now, with these, the secret is a long pry bar and lots of lube. Lube everything around the hanger on the little metal peg, and then just get one off at a time. I just had to like kind of figure out what worked for me, and then I would just pry them off. They're very strong and rubbery, so you don't have to worry about like ripping them or nothing too much. But yeah, I got one off, and then I just I kind of had to wrestle the second one off. Like I said, lots of lube. Now this is copper lube. It's not really ideal for this, but I didn't have my one I usually use at the time. But yeah, I just kind of lubed everything up, and then it made these coming off very easy. If you don't have any lube, you could maybe still do it, but it's going to be really hard because there's going to be a lot of friction. But yeah, just kind of massage these off with my pry bar, and then eventually got them off of the DPF filter like that. Now, it's not perfect, but they are off the filter. All right, so now you should be able to kind of move this quite a bit more. It won't come out because it's in the exhaust over here. Even though you took the clamp off, it's going to be like super hard to get out. And real quick, this is why I'm replacing mine, because mine was bored out, as they say. Someone took all the cap material out of there. This was a tuned diesel. Anyways, yeah, so to get the back off, I had to use an air hammer. I tried to not use the air hammer, but it ended up needing it. And what I did is I took my air hammer, and then I kind of just supported the front, and then I just tapped it in the back, like right about here, and then you know, I just kind of let her go, and then I did that until it eventually started coming out of that exhaust pipe. It was pretty much just rusted in there, and like with the rust and the clamp super tight, it just almost becomes part of that exhaust pipe. But the air hammer made it took a minute, but it actually did push it out. And then once the air hammer was able to break that part loose, I was able to kind of get in here and pull it out and remove it, just like that. Okay, so now that we have it out, there it is right there. And of course, I have the Ford OEM one. Now, like I mentioned before, I couldn't get that temperature sensor out. It was kind of rusted in there, and I could not get it out. But I got my new DPF filter. Here's the part number. Again, I'll link this below. It's perfect. It's just an exact replica of the old one. And then I got a new temperature sensor as well, because that thing was not coming out, and so I just got a new one. But real quick, here's the difference of the new one. See that honeycomb material, and then here you can just see right through it. That's because some tuner guy tuned this truck, and then he emptied that out. But yeah, anyway, so here's my exhaust temperature sensor part number. I'll link one below in case you need to do yours as well. They're pretty easy to put in, and I don't think they're that expensive. And they came with like a little zip tie too. I'm not sure where that goes because the one that I have didn't have that around it. But I'm just going to put this guy in right here. This just goes in, and then you just kind of screw the nut in like this. I just screwed it in as best I could, and then I used a wrench to kind of cinch it down. You don't got to go insanely tight, just pretty snug. Now, the old one had an old gasket on it, I'm sure you'll see, and the new one comes with a perfect clean surface. I got a new gasket, and the new gasket came with nuts. This is a Ford gasket. Here's the part number. This will be linked below as well. And then if you flip it over, it comes with the gasket, and it comes with brand new nuts, which is cool. And then, so yeah, so let's go ahead and put the gasket on. The old spot where it was, you're going to need to clean off because it's going to have gasket material on there. And then also on the inside of the other side, I cleaned out because there's a lot of rust. So basically, I just got, you can get like a little air spinner, and you can get like a, I just put this green one on because this doesn't scratch, even though like it's not, the metal's probably strong enough to take the brown one, but I just did this so it wouldn't scratch the metal too much and just cleaned it off. So now it has a clean mating surface. This is the one that's still in the vehicle. That's the cat. And then on the inside of the other side in the pipe, I just got like a wire brush, and I just scrubbed it as best I could just to get some rust off of there. You know, make it a little more smoother. And then I also put a little bit of lube on the inside of the pipe. I'll show what I mean, just kind of like this, just to make it go together easier. All right, and then I'll put some right here on the outside of the new one. This might seem excessive, but when you're lifting this thing up and you're trying to get it in there, all helps. And see this little nub right here? It goes in this little hole right there. So when you put this in, it's kind of like a guide pin. But yeah, the gasket came with some part numbers. Here they are right here. And just some general instructions. I kind of like know all this stuff. It's just saying, you know, put the bracket back on where it's supposed to go, whatever. I'm going to take these little thread protectors off of here and then put the new gasket on. The gasket is kind of like, you got to be kind of careful. You can't just push it on. You kind of have to push like one side and then another side and then one side, or else it'll rip. Push it on. But what's cool about it is it won't fall off when you're lifting it up. So had to get this guy in here, and I'll be honest with you, I had to have a couple other guys help me put it in. And once I got it in, I got the kind of the studs through here, and I would just throw like, you know, a nut or two on here to keep it so that it doesn't fall out. And make sure that long stud goes to the top where that bracket is. And then this little guide pin, I made sure to get in that hole as best I could. I couldn't get it perfect, but I got it super close. Once you get those on, just go ahead and put these hangers back on like that. All right, once the hangers are on, just go ahead and I just put these nuts on the front. And I just kind of hand tighten these nuts. I didn't tighten them down all the way. I wanted to get this clamp done. Make sure this exhaust is on there as best you could, best you can, and then we'll put the clamp right back where it was. And then at the end, I'll tighten these nuts to kind of pull the upper exhaust onto the DPF. But I wanted to get this back end straightened up first, so I got this clamp tightened down as best I could. And then, like I mentioned before, if your clamp's rusted or broke, you can get an aftermarket one right here. I'll link this below. Ford doesn't make that OEM clamp anymore, so you're gonna have to go aftermarket if you need a new one. But yeah, so once I got the clamp on, I went ahead and plugged this temperature sensor in as well, so I won't forget for later. So the back's good, my hangers are good, my sensor's plugged in, and yep, I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten down these front ones. I'll put the torque specs for these nuts in the description below, so just check for that. And just go ahead and get all these nice and tight. I went in a star pattern. Yeah, so last thing we gotta do is get the DPF filter sensor and bracket back on. So what you want to do is just put this bracket onto the long bolt there, and then slide the little vacuum hose that's on the DPF sensor just right onto that tube again, that metal tube. Make sure you push it down pretty good so it doesn't pop off. And then just make sure the connector's connected. I never unconnected mine, but you know, sometimes stuff comes unconnected. And then we'll put this last nut on, and then we'll just tighten this down on the bracket to hold the bracket and sensor into place. And then it should look like that. And then that's it. You're pretty much done after that. Crank it up. You don't need to reprogram the computer or nothing. To my knowledge, I didn't, and then it ended up passing smog and being fine. So that's it, guys. So real quick about the aftermarket parts, you can go Ford if you want, but if you want to go aftermarket, they sell aftermarket ones on Amazon. My best recommendation would be the Dorman for $1,399. Dorman's just an American company, and they did have a bad review or rating on here, and that interested me, so I checked it out. If you look right here, there's a 3-star rating, and so a fellow wrote a pretty lengthy review about how when he went to go put it in, the downpipe wouldn't fit into the old exhaust. He said it was just like a little bit too big, and he has like the sizes and everything, and so it's basically this pipe. He said this part on the new one was too big and it wouldn't slide into the old pipe, you know, like how we did. So I actually called Dorman, and I'm like, hey, are you guys aware? Do you have a bad review on here? And I told him the concern, and the guy at Dorman, he's like a parts specialist. He told me that that's nonsense, and that they've sold thousands of them since 2017, and they've only had like 3 ever returned as defects. So according to them, it should be good, but it's up to you, whatever you want to do, whether you want to go Ford OEM or get an aftermarket one. There's also some other good choices. They just didn't have any kind of reviews or nothing. But that's it, guys. Hopefully this video helped you out. Thanks for watching. Alright, guys, that's all the information I got for you. The rest of the video is just some products and other stuff I got going on. Totally up to you if you want to stick around. I got a 15% off Oxido.com promo code. Now, Oxido has a bunch of products, but what they're mostly known for is their really good aftermarket headlights. So if you got an older car, 80s, 90s, 2000s, even a newer car, if it has a bulb, they probably got an upgraded bulb for you. You may have seen aftermarket LED headlights on Amazon, but the thing, I'm not going to say any names, but the thing is, they have a lot of issues. Sometimes they start to flicker after a few months, or they get hot and the LED burns off. Oxido headlights come with integrated fans and modules that control all that stuff. So these are plug and play, super easy to put in. These are available on Amazon. You can get them there. However, if you go to the website and use the promo code GearmoAuto, you can get 15% off. It's really easy. All you gotta do is go to the website on your phone or your computer, and then put in what kind of car you have, what year, make, and model, you know, that stuff, and then it'll display to you all the available lights for your vehicle. You can get headlights, tail lights, interior lights. Highly recommend getting some good interior lights. You'll be surprised how bright it is. So just type GearmoAuto in at the checkout and you'll get 15% off.